Welcome, everybody, to the Big Dudes in the Trenches podcast. I am Doug. I have two other people on the podcast with me.
Bro, you sound depressed right now. It's making me sad.
I'm just talking slower than normal.
I know, but you sound depressed.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Can't do anything right this weekend.
That's not what I said at all.
You can.
Oh, jeez.
Or can't.
Oh, man. So this was Rivalry week, obviously. It was also Thanksgiving weekend and Black Friday. Did you guys go shopping at all?
I watched Black Friday football. Does that count?
No. That's not what I asked.
No, I didn't. I did not.
I know I
home.
didn't either. I didn't either, but I know a couple of folks who did. Namely, Texas A&M went shopping.
Yep.
Got themselves a new head coach, Mike Elko. Michigan State went shopping. Picked up a Jonathan Smith.
And the entire Oregon State coaching staff.
I mean, basically, yeah. Mississippi State picked up Jeff Lebby, Oklahoma offensive coordinator. I keep calling him Oklahoma State offensive coordinator. I don't know why. He was at Oklahoma.
Well, they are the better team in Oklahoma.
That is true.
That is
definitively.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've been meaning to put this meme in the Discord, so go check it out. It's a Tiger Woods John Daly meme, and you'll appreciate it. Everybody will appreciate it.
East Tennessee State also went shopping.
Hey.
They grabbed the current sitting head coach of Gardner-Webb.
Former sitting head coach of Gardner-Webb.
Who has made the playoffs the last 2 years with Gardner-Webb. Playoffs? How did ETSU pull this off? This is insane to me. I mean,
I'm with you on that.
How does ETSU have that much kind of money?
You want to talk?
They spun it to their boosters.
I don't think you understand what Eastern Tennessee is.
How do they have boosters?
Very simple. They went and found two alum who happen to have good jobs and said, "Hey, if you get me this coach, we'll be the best team in Tennessee."
I mean, that's
just
okay.
A bold-faced lie.
if they bought that,
you brought up Black Friday. I have to say
property in Kentucky to sell them.
You brought up Black Friday, and we just brought up a bold-faced lie. And I gotta say, I love these people that are taking pictures of sliding out the Black Friday sale card and showing the same price behind it.
Yes.
If that's not the definition of false advertising, I don't know what is. I mean, I guess you can lie about the price. You just can't lie about what the product does. You what?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Bug. I'm sorry.
It's like the best known secret about Black Friday there is, he said. Oh. But also, I feel like that's not exactly a lie. Like, it is still technically a sale. It's just the same sale they had going on previously.
Look, I've stopped believing in anything that says, "Hey, it's a sale," because every time you go to the store, there's a random price. I don't care what it is. There's a random price, and then one underneath it that is slightly lower, and the top one is crossed out. Like,
I wish they would start doing that with gas prices. That would make me feel better.
Gas prices are only so high because of taxes.
We're not talking about football anymore.
This sucks. Let's talk about football.
I could relate gas prices. I could relate gas prices back to football this week.
Oh, no. Well, we already did. We talked about Texas A&M already.
I was talking about Nicholls State.
Let's move on.
God.
All right.
We'll get to that story. Don't worry.
Oh, geez. So it's rivalry week, which means we talked about almost every game this weekend already. There were a couple of others that happened at the FBS level. We will be talking about most of those as well, because that's what we do. And we love football. Also, this was the first round of the FCS playoffs this weekend. So we have a whole lot of games to go through. And
I'm going to get you that button, Ben. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get you that button.
I mean, it'd probably be actually really simple.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm sure it is really simple. I'm just not smart enough to do
it. Yeah. All right, so in the pick'em, I am currently in the lead by 4 points.
Does it hold?
It's 7. Actually kind of ahead by 9. I don't know. How's that going to work out for the bonus points?
We're going to have to. What we'll end up having to do at the end of the season is point percentages.
Calculate the actual winning percentage.
Yeah.
So I'm ahead by more than it looks like, I think, but less than it feels like. Makes sense of that.
What an odd way to say that.
That's how it feels, though, and I think it's kind of true. So I'm sticking to it. But this is Rivalry Week, which did start on Thanksgiving Day. I got my papa to watch a football game with me. It was very exciting. It's the first football game I think he's watched the entirety of. Actually, that's not true. I got him to watch Ohio State, Georgia last year as well. Those are the only 2 football games he's ever watched in his entire life. But one of them was the Egg Bowl, which is great. And I'm glad he got to experience it.
I love the Egg Bowl. Awesome. Even if Mississippi State didn't win, it was another great Egg Bowl. It was another.
It really was. Really was. Ole Miss does win this 17-7, and they have cemented their place as the 4th best team in the SEC. Let's go.
I will say that Mississippi State, the one drive, that one touchdown drive, I was like, all right, this is it. They're back, baby. They're going to turn it on here. And then they were never able to replicate it the rest of the day. But it wasn't like they scored and like they had some luck on their side. No, they dominated that drive, that one scoring drive. And you really thought, man, they're going to take control of this game. They, like I said, clearly they couldn't.
I feel like that's been the theme of Mississippi State's whole season is they show up, they have one really good drive at some point in the game, and everyone goes, that's it. We got this. And then they don't.
It's because they didn't come out with the pirate flag helmets. For shame, Mississippi State. For shame.
They did have the script state helmets, though, which did look nice.
That was
but
nice.
It's not the same.
It is very much not the same.
Iowa setting records again.
Yeah. A new record for the lowest point total ever in college football history.
And
it hit the under.
It hit. Isn't that the second time this season Iowa game has hit that record?
So actually, this season, Iowa has 5 of the lowest 8, and they've all been under.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying to bet the under on the Big Ten championship game, but
I wouldn't actually, because Penn State beat them 31-0. So,
yeah, I think if there's a time where it's going to become something where it's going to change, I think this would be the time. I will say though, I would be interested to see if they're able to stop Blake Corum, but that's a discussion for later this week. So we'll talk about it then.
But Iowa does hold on to the Heroes Trophy and keeps Nebraska out of a bowl game. Same with Arkansas. They got held out of a bowl game, but we already knew that. Missouri claims their spot as the 3rd best team in the SEC, in theory. In the Battle Line rivalry, 48-14 over the Pigs.
Yep. I mean, Missouri's just been a better team all year round.
Gross.
And Bug doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. Texas Tech at Texas. I could not believe this one. I really expected it to be a pretty decent game. Texas Tech decided not to play, so that's cool. 57-7 for the Longhorns. They're going into the Big 12 title game with a little bit of momentum, and really, honestly, they have a decent path to the playoff here if they can beat Oklahoma State.
Absolutely. And
everyone keeps asking the question, if Texas is a 11-1 Big 12 champion and Alabama's 11-1, obviously, well, with an SEC championship, or like can Alabama get in if Texas wins the Big 12 title? And Alabama still needs to win. Like, don't get me wrong, they need to beat Georgia, which is a feat in and of itself. But I think the loser of Alabama, Georgia, if Texas wins this game, I think the loser of that game is out.
This is this is what we wanted with the 4-team playoff every time. We wanted these big games, these high leverage conference championships every single time. I think there's a lot of people that are discounting the fact that Texas beat Alabama earlier this season. Their loss to Oklahoma is looking worse and worse as far as Oklahoma continues to fall. However, this dominating win over a Texas Tech team that looked like were really starting to put it together, if they can go and win the Big 12 championship, they've got to be, they're my next in line if some other team falls short, whether it be FSU, Washington, whoever, Michigan, Georgia. I mean,
I think there's some element of the winner of Washington, Oregon is just going to be in.
Yes.
Right.
So the Pac-12 title game maybe doesn't necessarily matter for Texas. If Iowa gets the upset, if Louisville gets the upset, now we're really cooking.
Yep.
Or if Georgia just dominates Alabama, knocks them out of the picture.
We can talk about this more on Thursday. We got a lot of games to get through.
Right. Number 11, Penn State stakes their claim as the most consistent 10-2 team of all time.
Facts.
With another win over Michigan State in the land-grant trophy battle, 42-0. This one. Michigan State is not good and desperate need of a new head coach. So glad they found a guy.
Yep.
And got it done quickly.
Yeah. And
with recruiting time left.
Right.
Man, this was not like a very good final audition for the guy they went and picked up, but this didn't slow him down from taking Oregon State's head coach here.
Yeah, 31-7 for Oregon over Oregon State in Duck-Face Beaver Carnage.
The last ever.
In theory.
Allegedly.
What I will say, for your point that this was a bad audition, apparently this deal's been done for like 5 weeks, according to a press conference that Jonathan Smith did.
Props to their PR teams for keeping that on the DL.
Yeah. I mean, not like officially done for 5 weeks, but I guess he's agreed in principle for a long time, and Oregon State made their final offer like this week, and it wasn't close still. So he's gone, and he said he knew he was going to be gone for a little while now. Just the uncertainty of conference future for the Beavers and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if this was ever going to be part of the calculus this game, although it does sting for the Beavers for sure. And the Ducks, I really do believe the winner of the Pac-12 title game is in the playoff at this point. Just Oregon has looked so good. If they avenge that loss, it kind of clears that record.
Correct.
And Washington would be in as a 13-0 Power 5 champ.
I see it the same way.
Moving right along then. First up here on Saturday, UConn at UMass. The battle for the real U. And UConn dominates 31-18.
Yeah. What was your thought process taking UMass here? I'm curious.
I mean, it's a toss-up game, honestly. Like, when you look at this across the board.
So you took the home team.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, UConn or UMass is so much better than the other. I think they're about even.
I mean, UMass was looking like a very quality win to start off the season. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Yeah,
that turned out to be a fluke.
Bug and I both knew that UConn is better than that 2-9 record they came into this game with. Not that much better, but 3-9 is a lot closer where they should be than 2-9.
I think 31-18 is that much better than the 2-9 record they came in with.
I wanted to believe this season that UConn was better, but they've also let me down a lot this season, and I think that factored in as well.
I think they've let themselves down a lot this season too. Let's be real. I don't think anybody truly expected them to be this bad. I don't think anybody expected them to be gangbusters either. But man, 3-9 was a little shocking.
Right. Both of these teams were at least in the conversation for bowl games last year. I know UConn was in the Bahamas Bowl, and I think UMass fell just short. But yeah, a little bit surprising they fell as far as they did.
And now. And now the game that Doug really doesn't want to talk about. Ohio State at Michigan. Number 2 versus number 3. Michigan wins this one on a interception in the last minute, 30-24. This was the best game between Ohio State and Michigan since the pandemic.
Really, I would say probably the best game they've had since 2016 in that double overtime game.
Was that the goal line stop, or was that 2019?
2016 was the Curtis Samuel debate on did he convert the fourth down, wasn't it?
No.
That's what I was talking about.
I don't know what play you're talking about exactly. I'm thinking of double overtime when Curtis Samuel got around the outside and got in the end zone.
There was
and they weren't sure if he got in or not. Because that's what I'm sure he got in.
There was one that
are you thinking of the JT Barrett where it was questionable whether he got the first down?
That might have been.
That was a different year. That was before. That was before. Whatever.
That was Urban Meyer still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We had talked about this bug on Thursday.
Right.
That it's questionable whether or not Wednesday. You're right. It's questionable whether or not Ryan Day would actually be able to keep his job if he loses this game. I don't feel that same way as I did then because I think he coached fairly well in this game. And I know a lot of Ohio State fans don't agree with me even on that.
I'm seeing a lot of John Cooper comparisons everywhere I turn.
Yeah, and I've been making some of those comparisons as well, but I don't see it exactly the same way. Man, I put so much of this on Kyle McCord, and I feel so bad for doing it. But
you were mad at Kyle McCord on Saturday.
Yes.
You were big mad at Kyle McCord on Saturday.
Legitimately, here's the difference in the game. The difference in the game came down to 3 plays in my head, which is fair. It's a 1-score game, so 3 plays sounds about right.
Yeah.
There was a touchdown that was awarded to the Wolverines.
I was wondering what your thoughts on that were going to be.
Actually, the receiver never had control of the ball.
Yep.
And it fell into Denzel Burke's hands in the end zone, and it should have been a touchback. It was called a touchdown on the field. I understand why the refs said it stood.
So,
but damn, if they had called that interception on the field, that also would have stood.
I will say, though, I agree it should have been an interception. However, there was a play that very similar went in Ohio State's favor later. They ruled the exact same way.
They were consistent with it, which is why I was okay with that.
Yeah. If they would have, I would assume keep the same consistency, then you're looking at that play as maybe a pivotal play in the game too.
The other play I'm thinking of comes down to when we decided to run out about 25 seconds of time on the clock to kick a 52-yard field goal instead of trying to get a first down and make at least a shorter field goal. 52 yards would have been a career long for our kicker. Even going back, he's never hit that long of a field goal in his life. And the last time we asked a kicker to do a 52-yarder, we also missed that against Georgia. So don't kick 52-yarders if you're Ohio State. That's a new rule of thumb. Don't attempt those, please.
So
we can't do it.
Now people might be asking, why is that pivotal? You lost by 6. You needed a touchdown. The reason is that changes your game scripting at the end of that fourth quarter. You're not taking those deep shots.
That would have put us going into the half with a tie ball game instead of down by 3.
Well, and I'll throw this out here too. There was some criticism of Ryan Day. I saw at halftime pointing out, hey, Michigan's gone for 2 or 3 times at that point on fourth down. And you just ran out 30 seconds of the clock, and look who's winning. Look who's being more aggressive, and look who's going out and trying to win this game.
Yep.
At the same time, it was the part of the field where if we don't convert that, we give them a chance to score again. And it was far enough that I'm not certain we would have made it, right? It was like a 4th and 3, 4th and 4.
Right.
I'm okay with the decision. I just understand that was a pivotal decision, and it might be part of what cost us this game. The last play I'm thinking of, actually, I think there are 2 more. One, Xavier Johnson, where his knee didn't hit the ground, and they called him down before the first down. It should have been a first down.
And you can't challenge that.
whatever. We still had a chance to win.
Yeah.
And the last play of the game on offense for us, that interception, at the moment, I was really wanting to blame Kyle McCord. Going back and watching that play again, Kyle McCord made the correct read.
Yeah.
And if he didn't get hit, that's a touchdown. We're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. winning the Heisman Trophy, and we're competing for a national championship. So it's on our offensive line, that last play.
And
it's a game of inches, right? It's two extremely talented teams.
Yep.
I'm an Ohio State fan. Of course, I'm going to pick Ohio State in this game. You guys believe my hype because I talked about Ohio State so much.
The play I want to talk about that I think actually changed the face of the game, I believe it was the first score for Michigan. The turnover on your own 6-yard line. That is a game changer. It doesn't matter what point of the game that's in. That is an absolute game changer to put your defense back on the wall.
Consider for that too, their offense didn't get a first down at all until that point when we gave them the ball on our 6-yard line.
Yep.
It took them 4 plays to get those 6 yards.
They had held Blake Corum in check. The story, going into the game was, he scored every single game, blah, 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 blah. They don't throw the interception. I wonder if he scores, because the game changes completely if they don't get that touchdown there. Correct. And that was a big gimme touchdown.
You got to concede that you're probably – well, no, because you held him to 4th down. So I was going to say you don't even have to concede that you're going to give him 3 at that point.
Right.
To me, the biggest thing to me is those 2 turnovers. Right. Yeah. I know turnovers change the game. But when you look at them too, they looked very similar. Kyle McCord had to change his arm angle and he was rushed to try and get the ball out and get it away. So it goes on the O-line. It does go on McCord a little bit as well. Just let him bat it down.
Here's another thing I will say, and I think I am still a little bit justified in being mad at Kyle McCord for this. Because if we had CJ Stroud in that exact same situation, he would not have gotten hit, right? So it's the kind of quarterback that we have. It's not a quarterback style that we're used to. We haven't had this kind of a quarterback since before Troy Smith. Yeah. So it's been 20 years since we've had a pocket passer who can't move at all, and that's what Kyle McCord is right now. So that's on the coaching staff. They need to figure that out and plan for that better, but also – it's not the way we've recruited our offensive line. Another thing, because J.J. McCarthy played out of his fucking mind. This was his most accurate game of all time. Even the past 2 games against Ohio State, he hasn't been this insane on the run, rollouts, across body, doing some crazy-ass shit that no quarterback should ever be able to complete those passes, let alone J.J. McCarthy based on the past couple of games. And here he is just making plays that
I think it's pretty well known.
I
think it's pretty well known that I hate every fan base I'm a part of. To the nth degree. I think the Blackhawks fan base is about the only one where I'm in lockstep with them on pretty much everything. And I was that way when they were winning too. But there are Bears fans out there. They're like, oh my God, look at J.J. McCarthy. We need to go get him. He could be the next Tom Brady. I'm like, you motherfuckers. I swear to God.
So, Doug, my one question before we move on, because we do need to move on.
Yeah.
Is Kyle McCord the guaranteed QB1 next year, or does that QB position battle that QB battle open up?
Yeah, thank you for that tee up, because I actually have a theory on Kyle McCord, and this is a great opportunity.
I was waiting to hear this.
I firmly believe that Kyle McCord was never meant to be the starting quarterback at Ohio State. And here is my supporting evidence for this. So there's been a lot made, especially this week, of Kyle McCord was brought in the same recruiting class as J.J. McCarthy was brought into the team up north. McCarthy wanted to be in Ohio State. He was an Ohio State fan growing up. And Ryan Day said no and took Kyle McCord instead. Here's my thought on that. I believe Ryan Day didn't like either of them, settled for the quarterback that would get him Marvin Harrison Jr. because they played together in high school, and would figure out the starting quarterback in the future. So now Kyle McCord has 2 years sitting under CJ Stroud. And so he's the only guy left, right? Well, he wasn't supposed to be, because we were supposed to have the number 1 overall quarterback in Quinn Ewers.
Yep.
And then when he transferred to Texas, we were supposed to have the number 1 overall quarterback in Dylan Raiola, who's now at Georgia. That didn't work out either. All right, what happened there? That was the earliest we have ever been in on any prospect in the history of Ohio State. We have never offered quarterbacks that early. We're not like Lane Kiffin, USC, offering 9-year-olds. We don't do that shit. So when we were in on Quinn Ewers early enough that he could reclassify and come in years before he was even supposed to, that is saying we were desperate for a quarterback. I think Ryan Day knew CJ Stroud to Kyle McCord was not going to be a good fit for his offense, and we were looking for another quarterback all this time. Now we have a true freshman who plays a lot more similarly to CJ Stroud coming in Aaron Noland, and he is coming in early. He is enrolling early. His first semester is going to start here in a couple of weeks.
First spring ball, yeah.
And I fully expect that will be a quarterback battle, whether that's talked about in big media or not. I don't think it's going to get let out to ESPN or whoever that Ohio State has a quarterback battle, because everyone's going to assume it's Kyle McCord. But I would not at all be surprised if we end up seeing the South Dakota freshman, Lincoln Kienholz, or our new incoming freshman, Aaron Noland, actually end up beating him out this spring, and we have a different starting quarterback. I don't trust in Devin Brown. Lincoln Kienholz has looked better than him in what we've seen of them this year, and Devin Brown wears Sammy Ball's number, and it looks dumb. So let's get one of these new guys
33,
in.
33.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That is not a QB number. It annoys me.
Tevin Carter from Memphis just entered the transfer portal as a quarterback. He was wearing 21. So wherever he goes, I'm sure he's going to do the same thing when he gets there.
That's still ugly.
It's also possible that we bring in a transfer and Kyle McCord transfers. And I'm not saying Ohio State's very much so not the kind of program that would tell Kyle McCord to transfer out. But if he chooses to of his own volition, I'm not sure that Ryan Day would be too upset about it. And I legitimately believe we didn't want a quarterback when we took Kyle McCord. We didn't care about J.J. McCarthy or Kyle McCord. We just took the guy who was going to get us Marvin Harrison Jr.
It's valid.
That was worth waiting for the show today.
He was supposed to be a 4-year backup, and it fucked up our plans that Quinn Ewers transferred out. That's what I think.
That's fair. All right. We spent about 15 minutes on Ohio State.
That's about how much we spent on Wednesday. So
it's fair. It's the biggest game.
It is
of the
absolutely fair. But we do need to
every
move
year.
On. Let's keep it going.
The Gaines Trophy, 59-14 SMU.
Yeah, Navy sucks. Move on.
I did not realize SMU was that good.
Yeah,
they're not. Navy's just that bad.
I think it's a little bit of both, actually. SMU is now undefeated in the American. They're 10-2 overall, and they will be at Tulane for the American Conference Championship.
Hold on. Is Army Navy going to be for a bowl?
Bowl eligibility, yes.
They're both 5 and 6?
Actually, because Army has 2 wins against FCS opponents, and so they will not be eligible.
I like this.
And because Navy is not currently at 6-6, the thinking is the bowl schedule has to be done this weekend, actually. So Navy probably won't be eligible anyway if they're 6-6. It will end up going to Minnesota regardless, who is 5-7 and qualified on the academic whatever.
All right. I'm all for Army Navy having its own week. That's great and all. Can we swap Conference Championship week and Army Navy week? And hear me out here for that reason.
I thought that's how it was anyway.
That's how it used to be. Because Army Navy,
that's how it was.
So Army Navy used to be that first weekend of December. It used to be this upcoming weekend. I don't know what happened where that changed. I think it changed when Navy joined the conference. But we can switch those, and then there's a benefit there where minus Army Navy, you give all of your teams competing in a championship game. Honestly, a much needed buy at this point in the season.
There's a chance that they do go that way with all the conference realignment and the
and Army's joining the American. If you make that change, then all of a sudden you can make that.
Yeah, but the Americans already said that they're willing to not that's going to be a non-conference game anyway. So
but if they can move it, what I'm saying is if they can move it before the conference title game, then they don't have to commit to that. Right? If you make that,
but they already have committed to that, so it is what it is. I know.
Mike Oresco's kind of a pussy. Anyway,
LSU beat Texas A&M,
and A&M has a new coach.
A&M has a new coach for it. Let's go.
I actually like that fit too for Mike Elko.
I'm interested to see.
I wish he would have stayed at Duke,
how he handles the boosters.
Right.
This next one,
well, he is the former defensive coordinator at Texas A&M, so he has a little bit of experience.
This next one was an exciting one. Definitely not one we expected.
Nope.
Yeah, we got pounced on by the Cats.
Cats by 90, baby.
Kentucky at Louisville beats up on Louisville 38-31. Actually, a very fun game. I know of a couple of folks that were there. They said it was one of the most entertaining games that they've seen in quite some time, even considering some of the great performances we've seen out of Louisville recently. This was just a back-and-forth affair. Kind of telling that 7-5 Kentucky is better than the second-best ACC team.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, I said the 14 playoff had kind of been run by the Big 10, Big 12, and the SEC, and you're like, well, what about Clemson? I'm like, yeah, by themselves. It'd just be like saying, okay.
Well, I didn't say the ACC. I said Clemson, and I was right.
Okay.
Got a point.
That's fair.
There was like a 5-year stretch they were in it all the time. So you just jumped 2 there. That's fine.
I don't know why 2 came up.
For fun. Indiana at Purdue. The old Oaken bucket. Purdue wins by 4. We all called that simply because Purdue's at home, and that's what we do sometimes.
And Indiana's getting a new coach.
Yeah. They somehow scraped together a whopping $17 million in a negotiated buyout with Tom Allen.
Oof.
I didn't know Indiana had that kind of money, but congratulations, Indiana.
I mean, it's not Texas A&M oil money.
Definitely not. It might be Lucas Oil money.
That's fair.
Heyo.
And then Southern at Grambling State. I got the same. Big Cat.
Man, I said I wanted to take Southern. They hadn't done anything all fucking season to give me any confidence in that pick. I think those were my exact words.
Yep. And then they won 27-22.
I'm so pissed.
Beautiful.
Nothing like a 500 slide for us here, though.
Yeah.
And then Colorado loses to Utah in the Rumble of the Rockies, 23-17. Colorado finishes 4-8 on the year after starting off with so much hype.
After starting 3-0. However, for all the Power 5 teams with the new coach this year, this has been the best turnaround in terms of win total.
Yeah, they won 1 game last year. And that's what a lot of people have been trying to. It's unfortunate that everybody's been so quiet about this all year, and now this season they're like, well, hey, calm down. Look at how bad they were last year and compare it to this year. But there's a lot of merit to that too, right? If anybody else was a head coach besides Deion Sanders and he didn't have all the hype and the media and everybody following him and everybody making a big deal about this, nobody would be laughing at Colorado right now.
This turnaround is brought to you by the transfer portal. That's the only reason it was as effective as it was. Deion didn't have to deal with the leftovers of the previous coach like Mike Norvell did for his first 2.5 seasons there, 3 seasons, right?
But I think it still
brought
shows
in a
just
whole new
how
team.
difficult it is to coach at the D1 level. And even with the transfer portal, how difficult it is to put together a winning program.
The issue Deion's running into now, though, is with the collapse. Because, I mean, this is more of where everyone expected them, but they came out with the hype. They now lost the, Doug, was it the number 2 or number 3 quarterback for 2024, the 4-star? Has decommitted from Colorado. That's the issue that this is going to play into.
They've lost a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And
so they're losing their freshman
on
commits.
par with Colorado State.
Yeah, they're losing their freshman commits, which is the issue. It's one thing to come in and build off the transfer portal. And I think Deion has an entire formula of how many transfer players he wants every season versus freshman players. The issue is because you're not winning those big games, you're losing those big names, which he's been known to pull. He can pull the big names based off his name, like Travis Hunter as the number one athlete in his class. The issue is still
it's becoming he's only really able to pull in the number one corner every year because they all want to learn under Deion Sanders.
I don't blame him.
Right.
But yeah, and it's not wrong. And frankly, if I were him, I'm not upset losing the number one quarterback. I think he was entirely correct. Maybe he didn't do it the right way, but his offensive line is trash. That's where I'm focusing my recruiting efforts, whether it's via the transfer portal or incoming freshmen. His offensive line needs rebuilt. Every position needs rebuilt. They've got a stud true freshman this year at running back who I think is going to do great things. Shadur has at least another year of eligibility. Travis Hunter has another year of eligibility if they return. Are they eligible for the draft this year, Doug?
Travis Hunter's not.
Okay, then I don't think Shadur is either. So you got them coming back.
Shadur is, but I think they said they're going to wait and go together, him and Shiloh.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So I think with that for another year, you need to focus this offseason on building that offensive line. And the defensive line for that matter too. Work on your trenches.
Weird, isn't that something that I said before the season started?
Yeah,
crazy.
But then they came out and trounced TCU. But also, they're about to go to the Big 12, so they don't need to play defense anymore.
But they'll have to play TCU more often, so we'll see.
So they'll get to destroy TCU a few more times. It's fine. It's at least 3 more years before they have a good team, right?
Probably.
All right, the Cajuns didn't let me down.
The Battle of the Bayou. Louisiana Monroe fired their head coach after losing to Louisiana. Louisiana gets to 6-6 and will be going to a bowl game.
Yeah, is anybody surprised that Louisiana Monroe was bad? I mean, was this a shocker to anybody? I don't know.
No,
not me.
Georgia Southern had a massive collapse after losing to Georgia State.
Yeah,
but also weird things happen when you play Appalachian State.
Which is why I thought Georgia Southern had a shot here, but
they did not.
Appalachian State didn't want to let Georgia Southern hang around. 55-27 in Boone here.
The saying still applies to this one, Doug. Always State, never Southern.
Fuck you. Next up, battle for Paul Bunyan's Zags. Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin wins 28-14. And it doesn't matter because Minnesota is still bowl eligible thanks to academic bullshit.
Who goes to college to get a degree? Get him to play football, not play school.
Minnesota.
Exactly.
They go to college for for school and hockey. That's it.
Yes.
Virginia Tech at Virginia. We all knew the Hokies were going to win. The more fun storyline here is that the Hokies came back onto the field after the game to take pictures, and the sprinklers came on.
Beautiful. I love it.
You know what?
Which honestly made for better pictures.
Shout out to Virginia for winning 3 games this year. That was better than most of us had them projected for. So a couple big wins. Good job, Virginia.
And good job providing bulletin board material for next year.
Yes. Great times to be had all around there. Vanderbilt at Tennessee.
They tried real hard. Ben, you must have been losing your shit.
I was pissed. I knew Vanderbilt had a chance. This is one that's always like, even when Vanderbilt's good and Tennessee is bad, this is still a close game. And I know that's been 10, 15 years since that's been the case.
Yeah, that was supposed to be 24, not 42.
This is always a good game.
It wasn't that good, actually. I lied.
I assume this was accurate because, I checked in on the game a few times, and it was like a 1-score game for most of the game.
It passes.
It was until about halfway through the third quarter, and then Tennessee took control because apparently they decide when they want to play football and when they don't. But yeah, I remember looking at.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember looking at this one in the second quarter, and it was close. I think it was like 14-21, 14-14 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they got a chance. No, didn't happen.
This next score, though, is accurate. 45-43 Northwestern. Most points in the Big Ten West all year, probably. I didn't look that up to confirm, but it feels like it.
That has to be accurate. That passes the vibe, and I hope the fact check.
I hope so, because it should be true. Also, Northwestern winning 7 games this season.
Shocking.
Who would have thought that?
Especially after the off the field stuff, but like right before the season started.
Right. So, former North Dakota State assistant gets Northwestern to 7-5 in his first year as head coach of the Wildcats.
Good for him.
Good stuff. In the duel of the desert, Arizona goes to 9-3 with a trouncing of the Sun Devils.
The Wildcats are wildcatting today.
We talked about them on Wednesday as well. They are the most underrated team, I think, in the country right now. They've flown under the radar all season, beaten 4 ranked opponents, and nobody's given them credit all year. If they were coming into this 11-1, first of all, they'd probably be in the conference championship.
They would be.
But second of all, they would be the shocking, darling team everybody was hoping for and rooting for to get into that 14 playoff.
Yep.
That'd be sick.
When your 2 losses are to the 2 teams in the Pac-12 championship, usually it's a pretty good sign.
2 of your 3, but yes.
Yeah, 2 of your 3.
Can you imagine if Arizona pulled off those couple of upsets earlier in the year and then got to this point and like Louisville didn't lose to Kentucky and we just had like a really fun playoff this year?
Oh, that'd be weird. Cool. A Wildcat playoff? How many Wildcat teams can we get in the playoffs? You need K-State, Kentucky.
No. Stop.
No,
stop.
Fuck that.
No, stop. Arizona, Louisville, Iowa.
Oh, God, no. Stop, please.
Oklahoma State. Let's go.
Are you trying to make a sickos playoff?
Yes. Please. It would be so good.
Ben, you almost had
Alabama it. Still has a chance.
I didn't almost had it. I fucking had it. It was just a hope and a prayer. And Auburn, man.
On the 10-year anniversary of the Kick 6, we had that.
You know the problem was is that they brought that team out onto the field to fucking rub it in Alabama's face. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those. I've seen this happen so many times this season where a defense dominates a team first through third down, and they need to get that stop on fourth down, and then something stupid happens. They broke down the play. It really was a great play design. The 3-man rush, perplexing. I get some of the hesitation with having the nose tackle kind of sit back and be a spy for most of it. Milroe had hurt Auburn with his legs a few times. But, man, they let all the routes develop, and he had one-on-one. He could have picked his corner. He just decided to pick the left corner there. And, I mean, it worked. It worked. And some of that's on the DB, too. I mean, once you see him go up, just shove him. Get him out of bounds. I mean, even once the pass was in the air, that game was far from over. And, man, that was the stat going into 4th and 31.
Yep.
Was 0 for 90. It is now 1 for 91.
So I did hit up our boy Mason after the game and say, hey, are you still alive? And I got a 1-word response, no. Which is kind of what I expected.
And Auburn handled that game well.
Hell of a game.
I never thought anybody was going to get that much more control than the other team. And when Auburn had that lead, I thought, yeah, this is it. They are a muff punt away from winning that game. As much as everybody's going to highlight that fourth down play, that muff punt is what won Alabama the game because it gave them the ball back, gave them the opportunity to score there.
And it wasn't a muff punt like it was in the Navy SMU game where it hit the dude's towel. Yes.
Yeah.
That happened. It hit the towel, which is considered part of the body.
I mean, so you can say that. You could also make a great case that fourth down play is what really made the difference here. Because,
well,
I mean, obviously,
right?
No,
they did take points off the board for Alabama too. They got a pick 6 at the end of the game, but I guess they're saying that play didn't actually happen. there was a sack, and then they tried to get the ball off quickly, but I guess time expired as they were snapping it, so it didn't count. So
the other thing here too, Auburn played 2 games really well this year. They were both losses, but they were against Georgia and Alabama, both at home.
Yep.
Wild.
And then also at home, they got fucking boat raced by New Mexico State.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, go figure that one out.
Yep.
All right, let's hit this line.
The Apple Cup, the final edition of conference play version of the Apple Cup. This game will continue into the future. But 24-21, Washington survives yet again. Washington State
flirting with
really
disaster.
should have won this game. Washington State should have won this game like 3 different times. And Washington holds on because that's what they've been doing recently. There is a conspiracy floating around that I'm starting to really believe that Michael Penix has a couple of broken ribs and is really nursing that shit and not telling anybody so that he can keep playing.
Yeah.
Because you can see he is not comfortable, and it feels like you watch the sidelines, a couple of the coaching staff are helping him like protect his midsection even on the sidelines. So there's something going on with Michael Penix. I don't think he's at 100%, but they're still winning somehow. So that's cool, I guess. Jeez.
Oh, man, this was a good game.
Honestly, looked better, at least in the second half, for Florida State with their backup quarterback. That first half was insane for Florida. And then Florida State came right back and ends up winning the Sunshine Showdown 24-15.
The first half, it was twofold, right? It felt like a lot of feeling out, which we saw in a lot of these rivalry games.
Actually, feeling up.
Yeah. all the main ones that we spent a good amount of time talking about there, it felt like there was a feeling out period.
Yeah.
But that pretty much lasted the first quarter. This one was a little bit different because you had 2 backup quarterbacks going at it in this one. And it seemed like that lasted a little bit longer. And that was where Florida was really comfortable and had a chance to really take control of this game.
Yep.
And they couldn't ever get it in a position to really put the screws to Florida State, to put them in a point where maybe panic would set in. And Florida State was able to hang on, keep it close, and take care of business in the second half.
All right, all there is to it then, I guess.
Yeah.
Number 18, Notre Dame at Stanford. Battle for the Legends trophy in the last ever game on the Pac-12 network.
Oh, is this going to be on the ACC network next year?
Probably be on the cock.
Well, yeah, probably actually, because it'll probably be at Notre Dame. So Notre Dame wins 56-23. We expected that one.
Yep.
Way to go. You finally did it. You beat a team you were supposed to beat. Good job, Notre Dame.
Georgia Tech is better than 6-6, or at least they've been playing better than 6-6.
Yeah.
I think for
most teams.
For the first time since like week 6, you're able to say Georgia on the road is not that good.
I think there's a little bit of just rivalry elevation for the opponent here. Probably a similar situation with Washington State, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, Georgia Tech played out of their minds in this one for almost the entire game. There was a stretch in the third quarter. It felt like Georgia was starting to really take over. And then Georgia Tech just clawed their way back in it somehow and made it a fun game at the end, too. Yeah, Georgia was clearly the better team. It just Georgia Tech was getting a couple things to go their way. And it sure makes for a fun one.
Man, we got more
but yeah, we all picked Georgia. It's Georgia. Clemson at South Carolina here. Clemson 16-7 over the Cox.
They made this one interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think Clemson made it more interesting by refusing to be good at football.
Sounds like a common theme for the Tigers this year.
Yep, they've been doing that. This one was very fun. North Carolina at NC State. NC State does win 39-20, but it felt a lot closer than that.
Did they win the Tobacco Road Trophy?
I think so. I actually didn't look, to be honest with you.
I think they do.
And I kind of just assumed that they did, honestly.
All the high notes and key marks that we've been saying about NC State for years, they all kind of came to fruition here, and they prove why we say all the things that we always say about them. I'm very happy to see the success they're having this season.
Right. Really solid in the trenches, very physical team. Have a couple of great linebackers every year, maybe one or two fun offensive weapons. And that's all you need when you're playing North Carolina, because if you can beat the shit out of their quarterback and then just score a couple of points, you're going to be fine. that's the formula to beat North Carolina every year.
So Duke wins the Tobacco Road rivalry this year.
That's insane.
Duke wins it.
6-6 Duke.
Duke wins it because Duke beat NC State.
Yeah.
We got combined.
Yeah, we got red combined.
It was in the Snowmageddon. Should be the temporary name for this one.
42-35, Iowa State beats Kansas State in a very entertaining game. Basically, though, the snow was doing all of the defending. The defenses kind of sat this one out.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a matter of how much can you actually reliably move the ball in like a solid 5 inches of snow where all you could see of the field were the hash marks. So it was really fun, though.
Apparently, both teams can move them fairly well.
At times. At times. You'd be surprised. No, it was a really fun game. Then we got sacrificed by the Aztecs of San Diego State here. They win
Fresno State.
They win 33-18 to send Brady Hoke out as a winner his final game after he announced his retirement. This was his last game coaching, supposedly. We'll see. But he is 60-something. I kind of believe him. Also, that's San Diego State really hasn't had that great of a season. So,
and then
Tupac.
No. This is an ACC Big Ten game now, actually. But this was the last ever game of the Pac-12, and I think it's really fitting that we got Pac-12 After Dark on this because it's just crazy shit happens in the Pac-12, which doesn't exist anymore. So
this is the last crazy shit. We move on.
33-7 for Cal. What the hell happened?
Cal shows up at the most random times.
I guess Chip Kelly isn't potentially leaving after beating both of his rivals. He only beat one.
Right.
But he's also not definitely leaving. So, I mean, right. I guess we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Oh, this is crazy. Let's move on
Playoffs.
to Playoffs.
I need to get you that.
Playoffs.
Starting us off here, Sacramento State at North Dakota. Man, Sacramento State played very surprisingly well. None of us expected that. The Hornets coming to get us.
Can we?
Damn it.
I guess UC Davis has to shut up now.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought as soon as I saw the score. Oh,
and the first Big Sky MVC matchup goes to the Big Sky. I know a lot of Big Sky fans are talking some trash out here. We'll get another Big Sky MVFC matchup here this week. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But man, this one did not go how I thought it would go. And man, I'm surprised.
I mean, all of us picked North Dakota, so I don't think it went how any of us thought it was going to go.
I think we were all low-key hoping for that all MVFC quarterfinals.
I mean, it would have been kind of fun, not going to lie. But also, I'm somewhat glad it didn't happen at the same time.
Yeah.
NC Central at Richmond.
Oh, we got spidered.
Whew, that's a nasty-looking spider.
That thing's pissed.
This, legitimately... honest with you, this went how I thought it was going to. I just wanted NC Central to win because it would be cool, but it didn't happen.
So I've talked to some people about the MEAC and the SWAC in the past, and their opinion is that they're not good conferences. They're not good teams, and that's why they only play each other. That's why they avoid the playoffs. Is this indicative of that, or is this just a case of Richmond showed up and NC Central didn't?
I think it's a little bit of both, and hear me out here. NC Central is a good team. I'm not going to take that away from them. They are a good team. But here's the problem. When you spend your entire season as a good team playing other shit teams, and that's primarily all you're really playing, you're not sharpening the steel, right? Iron sharpens iron here. But you're not getting that challenge. You're just walking over a bunch of teams other than Howard in a game where they also just didn't show up. And it looks like this is the same team that showed up against Howard that showed up against Richmond. Right? So where I'm getting at here is I do think it's time to open that. We've had this discussion before. We need to open this up better, get these guys playing outside of just these conferences, give them more non-conference games or what have you. I don't know the actual solution. But there is a way to – they have legitimate talent there. They just can't capitalize on it.
Alternatively, as we discussed in the Discord, how fun would it be for there to be a 4-team HBCU playoff alongside the FCS playoffs? NC Central, Howard, Florida A&M, and Prairie View A&M all –
I don't need any more Division I national champions.
And I think
it'd be fun though.
I think there is a little bit to this as well. That I think you're right. They need to play some more teams because Tom Brady played in the worst fucking division in professional football when he was most dominant.
Alex Smith.
I fucking agree with that. Go look at the years he won a Super Bowl and tell me any of those teams were worth a shit. The Jets for maybe 2 of them.
I have a stat for that. We'll get there. If we have time.
But the point is that I think some of the schools have already started leaving the MEAC and the SWAC for that reason.
Yes. Yeah. And then to that point, yes, he played in a shit division, but guess what? He had to play the best team in the AFC West, the AFC North, the AFC South, and some of the better, he had to play a whole division in the NFC as well every year. So, and the Patriots for that matter. He didn't do it by himself. Anyway, let's move on. This one kind of shocked me. Doug, it shocked you too, but Tug, for some reason, you just knew the Blue Hens were going to come out and win this close game here?
It crazier than that. Lafayette was up like 24-0, and then Delaware came all the way back. What the actual fuck, Tug? Fuck
yeah,
you.
What the actual fuck is, everyone laughs at me when I say this, but I call this out in the NHL playoffs too. There is something to be said for having playoff experience. Lafayette hasn't gone too much in recent years. They have not been a great team. Delaware goes just about every year. So there's something to be said for having that experience in the playoffs. The environment's just different, right?
Okay.
So to know what that feels like.
So while I agree with you and I understand where you're coming from, explain to me why the fuck you picked Mercer in the next matchup. You motherfucker.
That
Their
was a gut
first
feeling.
Ever trip to the FCS playoffs.
That was a gut feeling. No, that wasn't even home team. I actually almost picked Gardner Webb. That was 100%. I like Mercer in this one for some reason.
I wish you would have picked Gardner Webb. It would have been awesome for me.
Doug, is this where you start getting upset because of the results of the week and I pulled some random matchups out my ass?
Just these two.
Wait.
Have the other
where's your skunk or your meme for yourself?
No, this is me being pissed at you. That's the entire meme. That's the entire meme. Fuck you, stupid ass bitch.
Yeah, Nichols couldn't even win a ride home.
They couldn't. Yeah, they couldn't get a ride home. There's not a lot to talk about this one. This was domination from start to finish.
No, I think that's coming up in a couple.
Yeah. There's a more dominant game for sure. SIU, there were definitely a couple missed opportunities here that they're going to have to clean up. They want to make it past Idaho for sure. Their first ever playoff game at Saluki Stadium. Their first ever win in a playoff game at Saluki Stadium.
Playoffs.
And their first win over a playoff team this season.
Playoffs.
Pretty big game for the Dogs. We'll see what happens this week. It's going to be exciting. I love how the first round, they cram all these games at the same time. But the second round, this game's going to take place at 9 p.m. Central.
Yeah. Well, it's at Idaho, which means it has to be at a West Coast time. You also get to be on ESPN2 while everybody else is on ESPN+.
I know, it's awesome. I love it. That might be my favorite part about the FCS playoffs is that they'll always pick a game in the second round to put on ESPN2, and it's always that West Coast game.
Yep.
I think last year it was the Montana game.
Yeah. Well, it's always the late night game, so that's why.
Right.
Chattanooga heads over to Austin P, the in-state matchup, and the Mocs beat us 24-21. Now, I do have the Tennessee Mockingbird on here. A little bit of a history lesson. So the Chattanooga Mocs are originally named for moccasins, but then it got shortened to Mocs because moccasins sounds dumb, and also it's a reference to the state bird, the Mockingbird. So there you go, a little history lesson for Chattanooga. And we get to look at this beautiful Mockingbird. And Austin P lost at home in another close game. The only games they know how to play, a last-second field goal game. It's like all of their games this season, apparently.
Except against SIU.
It finally bit them in the ass.
Got to catch you at some point.
I have an argument with you, Tug, on this next one. This game started 3-0 for Drake.
I don't care.
That first drive, it was not dominance from start to finish. Drake had to drive to start the game. It was dominance from the second drive to finish.
So you're telling me North Dakota State scored 66 straight?
Yes, it was not dominant from start to finish. Drake had to drive to start the game, and it counts.
Dude, that's like saying SIU had one Mississippi State had one drive. Like
they did.
SIU had one drive against North Dakota State, and it looked like it was going to be a great game, and then it wasn't.
So what you're saying is North Dakota State's defense needs a drive to warm up, and then they get going?
I mean, you can say that. It's a lot more accurate than saying it was dominant from start to finish.
What's most accurate is to say that North Dakota State's defense is going to give up one drive. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the first one. They're just going to give up one at some point.
One singular drive. And I got to say, shocking to me, after not really having watched much North Dakota State this year, because they've been losing a couple of games, and I decided to forego watching them. They're really good at throwing the ball. That's not something we've been able to say about North Dakota State team since they had Trey Lance. In 2019. So this is a little bit of a scary North Dakota State team heating up at the right time and only allowing one drive at the right time. So watch out for the Bison here. I know, shocking. Watch out for the Bison in the playoffs, but it feels very true right now.
Well, the rest of their road is most likely on the road, which is going to be a little bit more difficult than what they're used to.
Well, speaking of a team who needs to watch out for the road games, Duquesne at Youngstown State at home. The Penguins are something else. 40-7 against Duquesne. We'll see how they do on the road. This has been a very a tale of two teams this season for the Penguins.
So North Dakota is the only team that let down the MVFC in the first round.
Yes. Yep.
What's interesting to me is they do try and regionalize these matchups. And this was probably the second biggest, rivalry by distance. Obviously, Austin P and Chattanooga being the biggest.
Yeah.
Youngstown State and Duquesne had the lowest attendance of all these games this past weekend, and that was stunning.
It's not that weird. It's not that weird. Everyone was at home watching the game. Every Youngstown State fan is also an Ohio State fan.
He's got a point.
It was fair. At basically the same time. They were staying at home eating leftover Thanksgiving food and watching the game.
They were checking this game on their cell phones in between.
Yeah, and they saw it was a blowout. They were like, we're not leaving to go to Youngstown State. It's already 20-0. We're just going to stay home and recover after the game. And then all people didn't want to drive up from Pittsburgh because they're stupid, and it's people from Pittsburgh. So Duquesne can go Duquesne themselves.
I also want to shout out SIU quarterback Nick Baker for setting the career touchdown passes record at SIU in this game. More games to play. See how much further he extends it.
Did he have more than a baker's dozen?
Yes.
That's good.
I think he's at 67 now officially.
Wow.
So that's
a lot more than baker's dozen.
That's a lot of baker's dozens.
That's at least 2 of them. So
I think it's 5.
I wasn't wrong. Moving along here to our additional games of the week that we picked. We didn't pick 3 games this week. We only picked 2 apiece because there are no FCS games other than the one rivalry and the FCS playoffs. So only 2 games, which means fewer chances for bonus points. But still, what you got for us?
I'm not surprised by the outcome. I do think this game is a little bit closer than the score indicates. Mm-hmm. Tulane is just that much better right now. And what I'm more surprised by is that there is such a deficit with UTSA. Maybe it's just what their conference conference opponents have been this year. I was a little surprised that Tulane looked that much better than UTSA at times. Near the end of the game, when UTSA was trying to mount a comeback, it seemed like they could not get anything going. They'd take a couple steps forward, and Tulane had an answer. They'd have to get rid of the ball.
See, I actually don't entirely agree that Tulane looked that much better than UTSA. I think this was another tale of turnovers. And the fact that Frank Harris threw that many interceptions is wild to me.
They were getting a lot of pressure to him, though. I think you're discounting how much that was forcing his hand at times.
I appreciate the pressure, but also, holy fucking shit, 5 turnovers for UTSA. That's not normal.
Coming from a guy who hates turnovers,
it's also
the second half of the season. I agree.
It's also not normal for Tulane to force that many turnovers from anybody. So the fact that it just worked this game is shocking to me. I think this game was a lot closer than a 2-score game.
Absolutely.
I'm willing to give you fucking 4 points for this. This was awesome. I'm not actually going to do that.
I mean, I'll take 4 points.
No.
Yeah, I thought this was a good game. I was going to let you guys decide it a little bit more amongst yourselves. But what I think was a better game was Jacksonville State at New Mexico State. It looked like New Mexico State had this game in hand, and the Cox would not go away. They tie the game up, and New Mexico State has to win on a last-second field goal.
I don't know if you can say that.
Aggies get this one done, and they beat the Cox down to finish the season off strong.
The Cox just couldn't pull out the win.
They couldn't pull it out.
The Cox just kept coming.
They did.
The best part of this game was in the locker room after the game, all the New Mexico State players singing the New Mexico State fight song, which is about buying a keg, drinking, and celebrating a win. And then Jerry Kill just standing in the middle dancing with a cigar in his mouth. It was beautiful.
I love it.
From 2 years ago, not being in a conference, to go into a bowl game, their first ever last year, to go in 10-3 and go into a conference championship this year. What's not to love about the Aggies right now?
So now some people may be asking, why are they 10-3? Thank you, Hawaii exemption.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's on me. Oh well. That
so
should have been 10-3, not 9-3.
Oh, good.
That's
well,
fine.
Yeah, you're good. All of these teams, you're good. You're good.
Whatever. We're moving on.
Well,
you get the bonus point. You get the bonus point, Bug. For sure. These are good. Next up, my games of the weekend. I took both of the Mountain West deciders here. Starting us off with Air Force at Boise State. This one did come down to a last-minute interception, and Boise State walks it off with the win on the blue turf, and Boise State is in the Mountain West title game. I think this counts as a forfeit for you, Tug. So I'm just going to hand you the L.
Well, it goes with the rest of our season after Army. Been nothing but L's.
Yeah, but the fact that this was actually a one-score game at the end and came down to a last-minute interception, I was honestly a little bit surprised at, because I expected Boise State to come out looking stronger than that.
Boise
as weird
State
as that sounds,
actually came out pretty strong. I think they were up 10-0 to start the game.
Right.
Air Force did try to mount a comeback, but I think we were down to our third quarterback too. It's just a rough.
So the fact it was
stretch
as
here.
close as it was is a good sign for Air Force, to some extent. Still, not the outcome you're looking for.
You guys know my feelings on this season. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I hope you get what you want, Tug. I hope you get what you want.
Next up, San Jose State at UNLV. We got phalanxed by the Spartans.
Yeah, we did.
37-31. San Jose State comes into town in Las Vegas and beats UNLV, and it doesn't fucking matter, because the computer rankings the next day decided that Boise State and UNLV were the better teams, and it will be Boise State UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game, even though San Jose State tied UNLV for the lead in the Mountain West after beating them here. It's so weird how they do tiebreakers over the Mountain West.
Well, the issue is they had a bunch of guys that were tied that didn't have games against each other, so they couldn't just default to the head-to-head matchups.
The issue is
you have a head-to-head right here.
Yeah, but you have a head-to-head. What you don't have is a head-to-head between those two teams and Boise. When you get multiple teams and they all need a record against each other is what they want.
The issue is they got rid of divisions.
Right.
I'm just saying.
So this would have been very simple, and it would have been Boise State, San Jose State. But instead, it's Boise State and a loser of San Jose State, UNLV. Unreal.
Arguably,
anyway,
I think they got this right, though. At least UNLV should be in the Mountain West title game.
Respect the on-field result is what I say. And San Jose State won in a very exciting game, 37-31. It was another back-and-forth affair. And it was actually very fun.
I hate you.
And I quote, "Fuck you for making me try to pick this game."
Yes, that was the goal.
Yeah.
No, so I took an old school American matchup as a Big 12 just to see how these teams would do. I knew UCF was fighting for bowl eligibility. Houston was most likely on the outside looking in, maybe get some academic help if they got this win. They didn't. UCF pulls this one. Bug out here taking Memphis. UCF wins 27-13.
But Memphis beat Temple 45-21. So Bug was also correct.
And I had no doubt that would happen, and I wasn't going to take this game because it was not going to be a good game. But I do want to shout out E.J. Warner. He's doing it all by himself at Temple right now. He's the best quarterback they've ever had already as a sophomore. And that's saying something because he's coming in behind, a few years behind, but behind P.J. Walker and the numbers he put up there. If he stays there, Temple's got to do something to build around him. If not, he's hitting the transfer portal, and he's going to make whatever team he goes to immediately better.
I'm sorry, Tug, but it's a really bad sign when I also want to talk about Memphis Temple more than Houston UCF. Golly, this game sucked.
I thought it'd be an interesting
game. What'd you have next?
My next game was Liberty at UTEP. Really, I was pulling this game, maybe not because it's going to be a great game, because I wanted to see if Liberty could pull out the perfect season. They end up doing it, at least to this point. 42-28, Liberty, 14-point game. Liberty moving to 12-0 on the season. Still on the outside looking in, I believe, for that group of 5 bid. Taking on... Yeah,
New Mexico
State
at this point.
Yeah.
Taking on at this point. It'll be the winner of Tulane SMU. We'll get that bid at this point. No,
that's true.
100%.
Yeah, so taking on New Mexico State, which will be a very intriguing matchup next week as well. But huge shout out to Liberty for pulling it off. Perfect regular season.
And part of the reason that they're going to be on the outside looking in is, one, New Mexico State's losses are bad. They have not lost to a good team. And then 2, this game right here is a perfect example. UTEP's fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who Liberty had to finish the season out against because they're a conference opponent. It's a matter of the Conference USA is not very good. That's really all.
Yeah, Conference USA is not good, and also they didn't have anybody in the non-conference schedule to boost that resume. Bowling Green, Buffalo, that's not going to help you out too much. UMass. So, yes, this one was never in doubt. Almost none of their games were ever in doubt at any point this season. But also, can you trust them when they play someone with a pulse?
Yeah.
The closest they ever came was versus Sam Houston, 21-16, which should scare you. And it has been rightfully scaring the playoff committee away from ranking them, honestly.
We will get a good litmus test this week with a team with a pulse with New Mexico State.
I agree.
So, Doug, did we give you 1 good game, 2 good games? We got at least 1 with Boise Air Force, right?
I would
argue that UNLV San Jose State was the better game of the 2.
So he got 2 good games there. Tug, you got 3 games by default, and I think all 3 of them sucked.
You cannot give me a third.
I'm not giving you the third game. I'm not giving you a minus. I'm not giving you 3.
I'm
misses.
just like, you can't
but
add a game because you
ended up with 3
slide.
of them. You ended up with 3 games on your slide, and all 3 of them sucked.
No.
If Memphis Temple ended up being a very close game, I would have helped you out. But honestly, none of these games were good.
Whatever.
It sucks to say, but
he's
it's
0 for 2.
True.
So what does that do? Because I don't think we actually talked about what that would happen. So we are just looking at Houston, UCF, and Liberty, UTEP. So do you want Houston, UCF to go to a poll though? Because that was 27-13. That's probably your best shot.
I mean, we can set it to a poll. That's fine.
I mean, that's not even the question though.
The question is,
do you get a -1 or do you get a 0?
You're the writer of the rules.
I know, but I feel bad deciding that in this moment. I think that should be the poll rather than whether that was a good game or not, because honestly, it wasn't a good game.
I'm fine with that too.
I think that's the poll.
Okay. We'll put that on the poll.
Okay.
X is going to decide your fate of whether you hit a pass because we only had 2 games, or if you get a -1 because both your games kind of sucked.
But Bug and I are getting a +1 for picking 2 good games.
Yeah.
So I think that's the right way to do that. So that does give us our podium this week. Starting off 3rd place, Bug is he's trying.
He's building the comeback range for bowl season.
Every game I watched on my big screen TV on Saturday, I lost.
Well, found the solution.
Every game I watched on my phone, I won.
Time to get 2 phones.
Right.
Oh, man. So rivalry week was not a good week for me. I did go 30-15, but also, damn. This was brutal. I am become sad, crier of tears. Tug wins.
You said fight songs, sir.
I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna let myself.
You won. It's what you've always wanted. 32-13
he gave me.
For Tug.
I got sweet victory last week. All right.
You like that?
Well, you like Brandon.
No, I don't.
You like going out and getting absolutely soaking wet.
No.
Oh God. Oh God. We're moving on.
We have a couple more games that were really fun, and we have to talk about them because we can't stop talking about good games, even when we've already talked about 45 in this episode already. Friday, we had a double overtime matchup in the Mountain West, Utah State at New Mexico, after which New Mexico lost and fired their head coach.
Understandable.
So, and then Oklahoma State clinched their spot in the Big 12 title game with a double overtime win against BYU, which it looked like BYU had that for 3.5 quarters.
Oklahoma State tried real hard to lose that game.
Gundy tried really hard to Gundy that game up.
It's one of the most Oklahoma State seasons of all time, where it just looks like they should not have any shot at winning, and somehow they're in the championship game. What the actual fuck? Oh, man. Old Dominion pulling off a 1-point win against Georgia State was huge, getting them to bowl eligibility. And the thing that got Minnesota over the hump there to bowl eligibility, even as a 5-7 team, was the fire drill field goal by Hawaii to beat Colorado State 27-24. As time expired, it was like less than a second left on the clock when the snap actually went off. I don't know why they did it that way. Hawaii got a first down and definitely could have lined up and spiked it and then kicked a field goal, but they decided to just run the kicker onto the field and make it as hectic as possible. And it still worked. It's 27-24 Hawaii at the end. So
kicker's not good when he has time to think about it. Just go and kick. That's all he's got to do.
Right.
I mean,
oh man. Well, let's talk about a couple of draft prospects that I wanted to watch this weekend. Starting off with Cade Stover, tight end for the Ohio State. Added 3 catches this season for 40-something yards. Decent enough performance, honestly. So, where would I rank him among the tight ends in the class? He's like an early day 3, late day 2 kind of a tight end. One of those guys where you hope to develop him as more of a blocker than he currently is, because he's going to be your second tight end for quite some time.
Yeah.
There's one special tight end in this class, and that is Brock Bowers. Cade Stover does a lot of those same things as a receiver, but without the experience running routes and just a little bit slower. Unfortunately, that little bit slower is a huge deal. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure how high Cade Stover's ceiling really is here, but
he's in an important position where there's not a ton of talent, especially later in the round, so he's going to get picked.
I mean, definitely. I have no doubt about that. And this is still one of the most successful tight end careers in Ohio State history, which is kind of insane. He's like the 3rd best tight end Ohio State's ever had, according to almost every stat category. And the only guys better than him were in that like super sophomore class in the 60s. So it's Ohio State doesn't use tight ends as of late. That's
fair.
And then Gabriel Murphy was the other guy I wanted to take a look at. The edge rusher opposite Laiatu Latu, who is getting so much draft hype, it's unreal. Laiatu Latu had a medical retirement from football at Washington. Was able to transfer to UCLA and get cleared by the doctors at UCLA, and is now a potential first-round pick. That is scary. And also, I kind of wanted to look at the other guys playing on that defensive line to help open things up for him. So Gabriel Murphy is one of those guys. A little bit more of an edge rusher, like maybe some outside linebacker. Never going to play in coverage, though. He is in rotation with his brother, Grayson Murphy. And whenever Gabriel's not on the field, it's Grayson. So I got very excited when I saw that Murphy got 2 sacks this game, and they were both by Grayson. So that sucks. But Gabriel Murphy honestly had one of his best games. And I know it doesn't look like it, 33-7 against Cal. But Gabriel Murphy was legitimately creating pressure on so many plays. Like, he beat the offensive lineman he was up against almost every time he was on the field. I don't know how Gabriel Murphy could have played any better. So this is a high upside edge rusher to me who has had success at multiple levels of college football now. And I know he didn't add any sacks here, but man, I believe in Gabriel Murphy. Maybe I'm nuts for that, but I would take a chance on him for sure.
But where would you take a chance on him?
I don't know. Somewhere.
Day 2, day 3?
I don't know.
Fair.
I don't know. That kind of thing will probably have to come down to the athletic testing.
Yeah.
Like some combine info that we just don't have yet. But as a pure production standpoint and watching him play, he looks like somebody I want to know that information about. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Fair enough.
Well, man, that's been a long show already.
It has. It has been quite the show. We had a lot to cover, though. I mean,
we
Rivalry
definitely
Week,
did.
Playoffs. And next week it'll be shorter, but we do have some exciting things coming up this Thursday. Doug, you want to talk about that real quick?
Do I?
Do you?
Well, it's conference championship week, so we have a whole lot of really special previews for that, and potentially other stuff.
Oh, potentially. We haven't made a decision yet, huh?
That's what I'm sticking with.
All right. I got some links before we get your joke, man. We got patreon.com/BTFootball, twitch.tv/bigdudesinthetrenches, x.com/BTFootball, facebook.com/BTFootball, instagram.com/BT_football, BDTfootball.com, mailbox at BDTfootball.com, youtube.com/@bigdudesinthetrenches, and our Discord will be linked below, along with everything else. Bug, what you got for us today?
I got a long one for you.
Ooh.
A pothead, a math teacher, and a gym teacher all meet at the pearly gates. St. Peter comes to them and says, "To get in, you have to beat the devil one last time." The devil appears and the math teacher goes first. He gives him a hard math equation, but the devil solves it in 10 seconds and off to hell he goes. And the gym teacher's up next, and he asks the devil to do 1,000 push-ups without stopping, which of course the devil does, and off to hell with the gym teacher. The pothead asks for a chair with 7 holes in it. He sits down and farts. He then asks the devil, "Okay, which hole did it come out of?" The devil replies, "Easy. It came out of the 3rd hole." The pothead replies, "Nope, came out of my asshole," and walks straight through the pearly gates.
All right, ladies.
I've heard that one before. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen. Unless anybody's got anything else, I think that's all the time we have in the show today. Thank you for watching and/or listening. And just remember, you can't win a game if you can't win in the trenches.